All right, let's talk about one of the biggest questions out there right now. What is AI actually going to do to the way we work? But we're going to flip the script today. Forget all that doom and gloom, the robots are coming for your job stuff. We are diving into a much more interesting and, let's be real, a way more realistic story: the rise of human AI collaboration. To really understand where we're headed, it actually helps to look back a little. So I want you to think about this question. Is this AI boom we're all living through just the 21st century version of something like the Transcontinental Railroad?
Because if you really look at it, the story sounds incredibly familiar, right? Back in the 19th century, the promise was huge. We're talking massive growth, new ways of connecting people. But for the average person, the peril was just as real. We saw jobs vanish, tough working conditions, and this giant gap opening up between the rich and the poor. So that anxiety we're all feeling today? Yeah, it's nothing new. The real takeaway here is that we've seen this movie before, which means we have a chance to write a better ending.
And that brings us right to the heart of this explainer. A whole new model is starting to take shape. It's not about replacement, it's about partnership. This is exactly what we're talking about when we say human-AI collaboration. It's a way of thinking where AI isn't your competitor, it's your coworker. The goal here isn't just to automate things away, it's to augment what we can do, making us better, faster, and frankly, a whole lot smarter at our jobs. And this image just nails that shift in thinking. It's not a zero-sum game where one side has to lose. We're moving from a mindset of or to a mindset of plus. And that small change, it changes absolutely everything about how we should be looking at the future of work. Okay, so that's the big idea. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at some fascinating examples from companies that are already pioneering this new way of working. So take a top-tier consulting firm like Bain & Company. They have an AI named Sage that can instantly digest decades of research. Their consultants use it to get a massive head start on analysis and presentations. But, and this is so important, every single thing Sage produces requires mandatory human validation. It's AI-led for sure, but they never ever sacrifice that final human judgment. And it's the exact same story over in the world of auditing. At KPMG, their platform Clara can screen 100% of a company's transactions, a task that's literally impossible for humans. So what does that do? It frees up the human auditors to focus on what they do best, using their complex judgment and actually talking to clients. They've basically transformed their entire profession from the ground up. And look, this isn't just for number crunchers. In the creative world, an agency called Monks uses AI as the fundamental operating system for every single project. The AI handles all the early drafts and helps them scale up ideas, but that critical final touch, the brand strategy, the creative nuance, that still comes from their senior human talent. So what are the results of this partnership model? Well, they can be absolutely staggering. Take the legal field, a profession that's been drowning in paperwork for centuries. One firm, using what they call a human-in-the-loop AI model, slashed the time it takes to review contracts by 50 to 70%. Just think about that for a second. That's not a small tweak. That's a revolutionary leap in how work gets done. So we can see this is happening, right? But the real question is, how do we adapt? Because it turns out the biggest barrier here isn't the technology itself, it's our own mindset. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This quote comes from a study at Stanford's D School. Researchers found this huge gap between people who got massive productivity gains from AI and those who didn't. And the difference was simple. The folks who fell behind treated AI like a tool, just a better search engine. But the outperformers, they treated it like a teammate. So how do you actually do that? Well, first, flip the script. Don't just ask it for answers. Ask the AI what questions you should be asking about your project. Second, use it to practice. You can literally ask it to role-play a tough conversation with your boss and get feedback. And third, use it to push beyond your first idea. Don't just settle for the first good thing it gives you. Prompt for volume, for variation, and get way past good enough into some truly creative territory. Okay, so this brings the whole conversation right back to you, to your career. The future isn't about trying to compete with AI. It's about building the skills for what you might call co-intelligence. And look, this isn't some far-off future thing. The need to adapt is happening right now. Data from the World Economic Forum shows just how fast our core skills are changing. The stuff that was valuable just a couple years ago might not be what's needed tomorrow. So here's the crucial takeaway. That whole narrative about mass unemployment, it kind of misses the point. This isn't about a future with fewer jobs. It's about a future that's going to demand a totally different set of skills from every single one of us. And if you need proof, here is the single most compelling piece of evidence. When companies were asked how they're planning to handle AI, their answers weren't about laying people off. As you can see, their #1 strategy is all about people. A whopping 77% said their top priority is to reskill and upskill the employees they already have so they can work with AI. They aren't trying to replace people, they're betting on them. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. The whole conversation has to change. The real question isn't this passive, fearful thing about what AI is going to do to us. It's a much more active question about what we're prepared to do with it. So, are you ready to be its teammate?